from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up today on Ag Day, as the Farm Bureau Convention comes to a close, members wonder what lies ahead. We take a closer look at the president's promise for better internet service in farm country. Are farmers likely to make a large investment this year? We'll see what the Ag Barometer is showing. In agribusiness, dissecting the hog markets.
This may have more of a bigger impact than we know right now as far as the hog market.
In a history lesson about a popular root beer and the link to a popular cheese snack.
Ag Day, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Clinton Griffiths is on assignment. The 2018 American Farm Bureau Convention is now in the books. Delegates have their marching orders on issues facing ag producers in the new year. But there are still plenty of unanswered questions. Will the ag economy spring to life like the stock market? And what will be the final outcome for trade deals as the Trump administration enters its second full year? The convention in Nashville came to a close Wednesday. Attendees were warned that the ag economy we've seen the last 3 years will likely continue with flat grain prices. There was a hint of optimism following President Trump's speech on Monday. He touched on several issues important to farmers, but short on details.
I'm going to thank him. I'm going to thank him for his work that he put forward to get our tax reform. He and Congress worked together to get that done, and we think that's going to be a positive thing for agriculture. And then I'm going to thank him for the people that he's put in place, the Sonny Perdue's of the world, Mr. Pruitt's and Mr. Zinke are doing some things that we think are very positive. And their doors are open. They're allowing us to have a seat at the table and have input into how they move forward with those things.
President Trump praising rural America during a speech at the convention earlier in the week, speaking on regulations, tax reform, and the Farm Bill, but little attention on trade.
When Mexico's making all of that money, when Canada's making all of that money, it's not the easiest negotiation, but we're going to make it fair for you people again. Now we want to see even more victories for the American farmer and for the American rancher.
Roughly 1 minute of the president's 35-minute speech was focused on trade. Many ag industry leaders anticipated President Trump to expand on his trade agenda, especially when it comes to the North American Free Trade Agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, which is under renegotiation. Some praise the president for his trade comment, while others still want more details.
I was excited to hear him say that he realized how important NAFTA was to farmers, because in Missouri it is very important to our Missouri farmers. But he also said that he wanted to make sure he could get the best deal possible for our farmers and ranchers in the United States. And so, who wouldn't want that?
We just want to encourage them not to do any harm to the agricultural piece. And if the president lives up to what he promised us, he says he's going to do better than what we've had in the past.
Before leaving the stage Monday, President Trump signed 2 presidential orders that he says will give farm country better internet service and help farmers compete in the global marketplace. The presidential orders are initial steps towards expansion of broadband internet in rural parts of the country. The Rural Prosperity Task Force identified poor internet as a major roadblock for producers. The order calls for expediting the federal permitting process. The second order makes it easier to place cell towers on federal lands.
This may be as simple as putting an antenna on a building. It may be as simple as putting a transmitter on top of a tower that already exists. But this is a relatively easy step to take a government asset that's already in a rural place, that doesn't put us at any sort of risk, to offer to the public and to the private sector to say, hey, if you're going to deploy rural broadband in this area, we are willing to give you space to do that on Department of Interior facilities.
The Rural Prosperity Task Force says only 39% of the rural population has access to adequate broadband. The Ag Economy Barometer shows farmer sentiment drifted lower as we closed out the year. The monthly survey from Purdue University had a reading of 126 in December, the second month in a row that the barometer went down. Purdue economists say the survey reveals a paradox of farmer sentiment. On one hand, ag producers have become more optimistic regarding current economic conditions in agriculture. But on the other hand, they also have become more pessimistic about future prospects for the agricultural economy. The barometer seems to indicate, despite the erosion and optimism about future economic conditions, producers seem to be somewhat more willing to make large investments in farm machinery and buildings than a year earlier. Smithfield Foods announcing it has fulfilled a commitment nearly 10 years in the making of providing group housing systems for pregnant sows on all U.S. company-owned farms. The Chinese meat processing company has invested more than $360 million to complete the transition, with a goal to convert all company sow farms by 2022. Smithfield is working on conversions in Poland, Romania, and Mexico for the 2022 goal as well. Mike Hoffman joins us now with a look at crop comments around the country. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Betsy. Let's head to Clovis, New Mexico. Matt Lansford is grazing his cattle this week. Temperatures are around the 40 and 50 degree mark, but he says the area is in need of some more rain. According to the U.S. Drought Monitor, nearly 93% of the state is dry. Close to half is considered a moderate drought right now. Now off to Fort Morgan, Colorado, Jacob Wilgenberg is cleaning heifer pens this week. He says this is not normal January weather, but he'll take it. He says lows are in the 40s and 50s with a chance of rain too, at least for now. And taking a look at the wind speed forecast, you can see the winds are going to be picking up during the day today, especially from the northern portions of the plains into New Mexico, northern Mexico itself. And it really becomes windy as we head into the day tomorrow as well. Taking a look at the overnight winds, they really pick up across the western plains for tomorrow morning. You can see that right there. And that will continue to spread eastward along with more wind coming into the Pacific Northwest later in the day tomorrow. We'll have your forecast coming up. First, here are some hometown temps.
One dream, two prizes, 3 fields. Show us your farm and you could win a $10,000 donation for your community, plus a dream sports trip for you. To enter, visit powertodomore.com. Sponsored by Resicor Herbicide.
Ahead in agribusiness, Tyne Morgan analyzes the current hog markets. Later in Packer TV, you might not believe how much shipping costs have skyrocketed. And if you've never had a cheese curd from Wisconsin, we'll show you what you've been missing.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.
It was a mixed trading session for the most part on Tuesday. We'll find out why at the floor of the CME.
As we start to track soybeans here, what are we seeing here? Well, we're seeing soybeans out of the entire complex are by far the weakest. Now, there's a lot of reasons that we can talk about why they're the weakest. You can talk about Argentina, you can talk about Brazil, but how about technically, they're also the weakest. When you look at the overall picture, the failure of now watching March beans to get above 985 to 990 and hold that level just shows us how weak they are. I think what you're looking for here now is most likely a pullback to at least 940, possibly 920. Now, we've got a report coming out on Friday that may change the course of this, but I'm pretty much convinced that the report's already priced in. That's the way I see it. This is Todd Horwitz, coming from the floor of the CME Group in Chicago.
There's still plenty of export momentum in the U.S. beef and pork market. According to the U.S. Meat Export Federation's November report, beef export volume and value ranking the second highest monthly total of the year. Beef exports reaching just shy of 112,000 metric tons, down 3% from a year ago. Export value is up 8% year over year. Meanwhile, pork exports recording the second ever monthly value in November. Exports totaling $615 million, up 5% year over year. Speaking of pork, what could the upcoming Winter Olympics have to do with pork demand? Tyne Morgan finds out more.
Here now is Steve Georgie of Allendale. Steve, let's look at this hog market. I mean, lately we've seen some good action, and as we look at the rest of the year, what is playing into pork's favor?
Right now we have got to be careful with the hog market. Yes, we're at some very good value for these hogs all the way out through summer. But one thing that we have to remember is what's coming up here. We do have the Olympics coming up in South Korea. Our demand to South Korea is 21% over where it was a year ago. But that I don't think has a lot to do with the Olympics. You're going to hear stories like that. It may have more to do with bird flu issues that they're now seeing. They have called over 800,000 birds in the last week. Russia having an issue, the same thing. And so this may have more of a bigger impact than we know right now as far as the hog market. And so be careful of that right now at these price levels.
So you think maybe we're inflated a little bit and maybe we can't sustain those throughout the entire year? It
will be a selling opportunity. For those guys that had done this back when we had the Sochi Olympics and we saw demand, and this is a very demand-driven thing. Well, those guys, we started seeing some hedges made way too soon. Find a way to get protected on this, leaving your upside open, maybe using some options or something, because we are sitting at good value right now for hogs. But that doesn't mean that we're done yet. Just because the fundamentals say we should be bearish, we do need to be careful right now.
Well, you know, you mentioned South Korea, and we have that free trade agreement that now we're starting to renegotiate. Yes. Not sure what's going to happen with that. But when we look at, renegotiating some of these trade deals, is that having an impact on prices today when you look at the uncertainty of what that outcome will be?
I don't know how much it is in the hog market. I don't see a lot in the grains. I think we're seeing more of that in cattle than anything else. But as far as hogs right now, I think it is. You've got a demand issue right now with South Korea. That's really what's driving it.
And you're telling producers you needed to look at these prices today?
Yes, they are profitable today. Find a way to protect these price levels, but leave yourself some room to the upside just in case we see this demand build.
All right, thanks so much for joining us. We need to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with more Ag Day.
To talk to Steve Georgie one-on-one, call Allendale Incorporated at 800-262-7538 or head online to allendale-inc.com. Ag Day, brought to you by Instinct and N-Serve nitrogen stabilizers. They don't just stabilize nitrogen, they maximize it, so crops deliver the max in return. Learn more at maxinmaxout.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day with meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, when you look at this root zone moisture map, we've heard a lot about some snowstorms over in the central Corn Belt and also in the east, but it looks to be a little dry in some areas.
Yeah, there are some dry spots. I think a lot of these dry areas actually get some help over the next week or so as we have some storms coming in out west, and we'll have some in the east as well. So at least for a few days here, kind of a different pattern than we've been seeing recently. We'll also see a little bit of moisture from storms, like I said, coming in out west, and then the multiple ones kind of moving through the east. It'll be back to cold, though, as you'll see in the jet stream after about a 4 or 5 day period here. Here's the way things shape up this morning. Low pressure just north of Minnesota, another one in the central Rockies, another system lurking out west. That will be coming eastward as well. Not a lot of moisture east of the Rockies to start with, but we are going to see increasing moisture out ahead of this warm front. It'll be light, though, generally light showers in some areas. It's going to be sleet or freezing rain before it switches over. The warmer air will overtake things, but doesn't mean it won't be kind of icy for a while. Then you can see the snow developing north of the cold front as we head through this afternoon. Heading through tonight, the snow picks up. This will be a pretty decent snow. Parts of the Dakotas, Nebraska, western Iowa, all the way into Minnesota, northwestern Wisconsin. The showers start to pick up ahead of this system as well. More rain and mountain snows coming into the Pacific Northwest. And then heading through the day tomorrow, it really becomes moist out ahead of this system with showers and even some thunderstorms excuse me, in the southern Mississippi Valley out of this system, and the rains will be picking up with that one. This system here all depends on where it exactly tracks, but it could be a pretty big snowstorm, parts of the Ohio Valley, eastern Great Lakes. We'll have to watch that one. Also decent snows later in the day tomorrow for the northern Rockies. There's the precipitation estimate past 24 hours. Some needed moisture there in parts of Arizona, southern Utah. Adding in the next 36, you can see how it's generally light, but we do moisten things up east of the Rockies over the next 36 hours. Snowfall, kind of the same idea. It's been limited to the higher elevations of the Rockies over the past 24 hours. Adding in the next 36, you can see multiple pieces of energy kind of riding up that front with several inches of snow behind that area of low pressure. Here are the high temperatures this afternoon. You can see teens and low 20s in the far north, pretty warm in the south, still 60s for lows along the Gulf Coast. Below zero in Bismarck, 54 tomorrow morning in Chicago is what our computer model's going. It stays there in Chicago, stays below 0 in Bismarck. So this is a shot of more very cold air coming southward. You can see multiple pieces of energy there in the jet stream. And the jet stream, our computer model is showing this trough kind of lingering longer than it thought yesterday, so the cold may stick around. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, Carson City, Nevada, mostly cloudy and rather mild today, high temperature of 52 degrees. Jackson, Mississippi, morning fog, otherwise a chance of showers with a high of 67. And in Flint, Michigan, a chance of freezing rain early, then cloudy with drizzle, high of 42.
Shipping fresh produce this winter is going to cost more, considerably more. Details next from the Packer. And see how a small town root beer stand helped create demand for a very popular Wisconsin cheese snack.
AgDay, brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
In news from our reporting partners at the Packer, it's costing more right now to ship fresh produce across the country. In some cases, a lot more. Coast-to-coast truck rates peaked at over $10,000 in early January. That's about 30% higher than a year ago. The Packer reports that the spike could cause friction within the fresh produce supply chain over who will absorb the added costs. The price hike has been blamed on several factors, including new federal regulations on electronic logging devices in trucks. You can read more about the rate hike at thepacker.com. A new plant-based milk product is hitting grocery store shelves this month. This time, it's peanut milk. The company Elmhurst Milked released both original and chocolate-flavored peanut milk products. It's expected to sell in more than 1,000 retail stores, helping create a new category for consumption.
And our job is to try to help sell these peanuts. And we do have what appears to be a record crop in 2017. The way I look at it, you can't sell them if you don't have them. So we see it as an opportunity and a challenge. And so new products like this that won't certainly have huge percentage increases in peanut consumption or peanut use. But if we can increase the consumption rate by 1 or 2 percentage points for a mature market, we think that's doing well.
Parker says the milk product will have 6 to 8 grams of protein per 9-ounce serving. Still to come, the historical link between A&W root beer and cheese curds. It's a match made in heaven.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
You may not be familiar with a cheesy side order called cheese curds. They're especially popular in the upper Midwest. We get a little history from the folks at the Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board.
It all started in Baldwin, Wisconsin in 2004 when a favorite local menu item became a national A&W success story.
Popularity really, in some restaurants, it's right up there with the root beer float in terms of the number that are ordered. And over the last 5 years, we've grown our cheese curd volume over 50%.
That hometown favorite was deep-fried Wisconsin cheese curds. The white cheddar curds are made fresh at Ellsworth Creamery and sent to Riverside Foods to be breaded with a special ingredient added for extra flavor.
Dust it with just a little bit of garlic. You would never be able to point that out when you eat them, but that's what makes it so savory and so delicious.
Emerson Geist happened to be passing through and never experienced A&W's cheese curds, so he thought he'd give them a try.
It has more of the cheese in it. You can taste more of what you're actually paying for. So, I mean, I like them. I'm a fan.
And curds aren't the only Wisconsin cheese offering on the menu.
We were really excited for probably our first cheese curd menu extension ever, and it just launched. It's poutine, so right now you can get cheese curds limited time only. It's fries, cheese curds, and then topped with gravy, and people love it.
Whether or not poutine becomes a menu staple, deep-fried Wisconsin white cheddar cheese curds are here to stay.
I am Emerson Geist, and I approve these cheese curds.
And that's Wisconsin Dairy News.
Well, that's all the time we have this morning. We're glad you tuned in. For Mike Hoffman and Tyne Morgan, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Have a great day.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.